Imagine this. A killer stays free for nearly 50 years. Not because he's a genius, but because the system has nothing solid to pin on him. No motive, no evidence, no warrant. He lives quietly in the same city, grows old in peace, as if nothing ever happened. Somewhere else, a 12-year-old boy grows up haunted by one sound: screeching tires, a desperate shout from the yard, and an empty passenger seat. His sister vanishes on Valentine's Day, leaving behind a promise that never got the chance to come true and a family ripped apart. For 46 years the case goes ice cold. Everyone assumes it's over. Then one day, an investigator looks at an old piece of evidence and says, "We still have one thing: DNA." The catch? The sample is so tiny that one wrong move could make it disappear forever. They risk everything anyway. And when advanced DNA technology stitches those microscopic fragments into a name, the man they've been chasing for half a lifetime turns out to be right here. The scariest part? What finally exposes him might be nothing more than a single plastic straw in the trash. This is 77-year-old Glen McCurley. He's suspected of having kidnapped and killed up to 7 women and girls in Fort Worth. For almost 50 years, he has evaded the authorities and gotten away unscathed. And today is no different.
We'll be back, Mr. McCurley. You know we will.
The police have no motive, no evidence, and worst of all, no warrant. But when the system fails, it sometimes only takes one man to bring a case back to life.
Had a sister that could never get off my mind. It's easy to give up hope, but then you just realize you can't.
Jim Walker, the brother of one of his victims, has waited 46 years to get revenge for his sister's kidnapping, rape, and murder. And he refuses to wait any longer.
I used to sleep in the tunnel where her body had been found, hoping her killer would return to the scene of the crime, and I was going to take care of him right there.
Carla was 17 and I was 12. I looked up to Carla. I thought she was beautiful. She was a good student. She was popular. Rodney McCoy was Carla's high school sweetheart. On that night, Carla and Rodney went out on their Valentine's Day.
But this isn't just any date for 8-year-old Rodney McCoy. For months, he's been planning to give Carla something special, a promise ring.
It's a little rose with a diamond in the middle of it. It meant a lot to me. It meant, I'm here, I'm yours, and I promise you. She opened it up and I could see the smile.
He knows Carla is the one, and with the ring, he promises to stand by her forever. With a smile, she accepts the ring. Soon after, they head to the school dance to celebrate with their friends.
Had a great time, danced the whole night. I remember Carla and Rodney coming in. We were all dancing on the floor together.
After the dance, the couple leaves to find a place where they can be alone. But little do they know their perfect night is about to be violently interrupted.
We started kissing, making out, and doing what teenagers do. And when you opened the door, we both our heads both fell out of the car, basically.
Rodney looks up and sees a dark silhouette holding a pistol in the open door. Before he can react, the stranger strikes him in the face with the butt of his gun.
I didn't even get a look at the guy's face. Finally, she said, stop hitting him, I'll go with you. He had put his hand inside the car and stuck the pistol about 3 or 4 inches from my face and started pulling the trigger.
Back at the Walker's house, Carla's little brother, Jim, is sleeping on the couch in the living room when the sound of screeching tires suddenly wakes him up.
I heard a car hitting a curb, and then I heard Rodney's voice outside yelling, Mr. Walker, help me.
The 2-year-old runs outside and sees his sister's boyfriend stumbling across the front lawn. He's covered in blood. The passenger side of his car is empty. Carla is nowhere to be found. The family rushes out to meet Rodney. The 8-year-old is frantic and out of breath, but he tries to explain what happened.
She was stolen. And I'm, part of what happened.
The next morning, police, FBI agents, and sheriff's staff arrive at the Walkers' home to set up the search effort. Rodney is their sole suspect. Everyone from Carla's classmates to the Walkers' neighbors is convinced Rodney is involved in her disappearance. Everyone except the Walkers.
I knew that Rodney was being talked to a whole lot by law enforcement. From the time Rodney came back from the hospital here in Fort Worth after the assault, Rodney stayed at our house. He stayed upstairs, slept in Carla's bed. That's how much we loved him. and how much he loved us.
After 3 days of unsuccessful searching, one of the detectives remembers a case from a year before. Becky Martin, a missing girl around Carla's age, had been discovered inside a cattle culvert on the outskirts of Fort Worth. On that hunch, the search party, along with the Walkers, focused their efforts on the underground tunnels scattered across the countryside, when suddenly, their search takes a turn for the worse.
Mom and Dad went in there, and Dad, I heard Mom scream, and it's that death scream.
Carla's brutal murder shakes Fort Worth. The whole town grieves the loss of the young girl. At the funeral, over 1,000 members of the community gather to pay their respects to Carla. Rodney attends with the family, but a heavy cloud of suspicion looms over him. He faces the judgmental looks of his classmates, their parents, and everyone else in attendance. In spite of this, Rodney gathers the courage to walk over to Carla's casket. As he looks at her for one last time, something catches his eye. The promise ring he gave her is nowhere to be found. The night she was taken flashes before his eyes, and Rodney breaks down.
Kind of collapsed to my knees, and Cindy was holding on to me. We were both crying, and you feel your heart just drop, and that's when it's over.
This will be his last day sleeping in Carla's bed at the Walkers. Right after graduation, Rodney moves to Alaska to work in an oil rig, never to return to Fort Worth.
Carla saved my life. I wish it would have been the other way around. And for so many years, my thoughts were how terrified and how scared Carla was that night. That's been with me forever.
With Rodney's departure, Jim feels even more isolated. Everybody around him is consumed by grief, but the 2-year-old only feels anger. It becomes an obsession. He wants revenge for what happened to Carla.
At the time, I used to sleep in the culvert where her body had been found, hoping her killer would return to the scene of the crime, and I was going to take care of him right there.
See, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to know if my sister was still alive when she went into that place, what she saw, what she smelled, how it felt. It was cold, but I just wanted to experience that.
Neither Jim nor the police ever catch a glimpse of the killer, but he refuses to give up. He's convinced he can solve the case himself and applies to the police academy as soon as he's old enough. He's accepted. But something goes wrong during one of his exams. His vision is blurry, and it's only getting worse. Jim is eventually diagnosed with a rare genetic condition that throws a wrench in his future as a detective. He's going blind.
Part of my life experience has led me to living with legal blindness. Prognosis is irreversible, and that it will probably only get worse.
With Jim's career in law enforcement cut short, he begins to lose all hope of ever bringing his sister's killer to justice. All of his siblings eventually leave Fort Worth. Years turn into decades. Come 2020, Jim is the only Walker left in Fort Worth.
It was a very dark time. My marriage was on the rocks. My dad had died. I know in his heart, he felt like he let his beautiful daughter down by not getting justice for her. By the time Mom died, I think she also too died of a broken heart.
Jim's drive to find Carla's killer becomes stronger. Every year, he does the only thing he can do: call the Fort Worth police and try to convince whoever's in charge of their cold case department to reopen his sister's case.
I asked her, how many cold cases do you have? And she said, we have 971 unsolved murders. I said, man, my heart bleeds for all 971 of those families. But right now, I only care about one case. I said, whoever did this is either dead, dying, we're running out of daylight. And I said to her, I want the truth.
At the other end of the line is Fort Worth Police Department's new cold case investigator, Detective Leah Wagner.
When I saw what had happened to this young girl, the mother in me obviously, screams out, hey, this could be your child, and that you really need to do something.
Thanks to Jim's call, Wagner decides to reopen Carla's case. After 46 years of frustration and setbacks, hope is renewed. Jim has spent his entire life looking for a way to get justice for his sister. and now with a new expert finally willing to work the case, he's ready to do whatever it takes to help.
Had a sister that could never get off my mind. It's easy to give up hope, but then you just realize you can't give up hope. That's all you got is hope. Every day's a new day.
First, Wagner goes over the events of Carla's abduction on the night of the 1974 Valentine's Day dance. After the attacker struck Rodney on the head with the butt of his gun, his weapon jammed. As Rodney began to lose consciousness, the attacker started clearing his pistol. Realizing that the man was preparing to shoot Rodney, Carla stepped up saying she'd go with him if he stopped hurting Rodney.
She was doing what she thought she needed to do to make sure Rodney did not get shot. So I think she sacrificed herself.
I see Carla's face, and she screams, "Rodney, go get my dad." And that's the last word I heard her say. That's the last time I saw her. I went out face first in the seat.
Even though they didn't solve the case back in 1974, the police still did their due diligence and collected every piece of evidence, including a full pistol magazine, Carla's torn dress and clothing, and a final clue that to them implicated Rodney, the promise ring. For reasons no one could explain, it had been pulled off her finger and left in the culvert next to her body.
And to this day, we don't know how that ended up there, if it was purposely taken or if it was removed in a struggle.
No matter what happened with the ring, Wagner refuses to fall into the same trap as past investigators. She's determined to find who actually killed Carla and exonerate Rodney, who has been living in exile after the backlash he endured as a suspect back in 1974. The detective knows how new DNA technologies can reignite cold cases and hopes Carla's case will be no different. All she needs is a sufficient amount of DNA.
I really felt compelled to help this family in any way that I could. We went through every single piece of paper in those boxes. We knew that in 2009 we had some DNA come off the dress, so we fully believed that there was more. There had to be more. There was a single source, full male profile obtained off of Carla's bra. We were thrilled. We have something now that we can actually put into CODIS.
Yet two things block her progress. First, at 5 nanograms, the sample is by far the smallest the detective has ever had to work with. Any and all manipulation carries a high risk of destroying the fragile genetic material. And second, the partial profile they identified doesn't match any of the criminals already registered in the database.
And it's really only enough to exclude individuals. And so it's more of a working lead than it is something to clinch a suspect. So we had something to work with, we just didn't have enough.
But Detective Wagner knows of a way to get more. A private laboratory south of Houston has developed a new technology to identify suspects using only small amounts of DNA. This technique would use up the entire remaining sample. And success isn't guaranteed, but Leah and Jim are willing to take that risk to get answers.
We still had hope because we believed that there was somebody out there and we were definitely going to find out who it was.
The gamble pays off. With the new DNA profile, Detective Wagner finally has a name, Glen McCurley. She recognizes it right away as suspect number 22 from the 1974 investigation. Back then, police questioned every local owner of registered Ruger pistols. After a loaded clip was found at the scene of the abduction, McCurley was one of them. He even took a polygraph and passed. But DNA doesn't lie.
We researched where he was currently residing, and it happened to still be in Fort Worth, only a couple miles away from the bowling alley. And so what we decided to do was have an officer go out there and talk with the residents of the house.
You, Mr. McCurley?
I am.
Mr. McCurley?
He's in the back.
He reacts jokingly at first.
Mr. McCurley?
I ain't good game camp.
But his tone shifts once Wagner starts asking questions.
Back in 1974, there was a young lady that got kidnapped from the bowling alley. We're re-interviewing everybody that was in the case, and we had seen at one point they talked to Mr. McCurley.
I told him about the same story I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, you sure got the wrong fella, because I ain't never killed nobody.
In order for us to eliminate you, the quickest way to do that is to get your DNA.
Well, I think they've already gone through all that.
But Glen McCurley's wife, Judy, isn't about to let her husband lie to the detective.
They didn't even do that back then. DNA testing is a new thing, honey.
And when he starts trying to build an alibi for the night Carla was taken and for the days that followed, his wife cuts in again, correcting him.
Yeah, I was with her part of the time. That's not true, Glenn. No, I'd gone to Midland. My parents still lived in Midland.
McCurley has the right to refuse Wagner's request, but the detective won't let that deter her. When night falls, she sends officers to dig through the suspect's trash for anything that might have his DNA on it. They recover a plastic McDonald's straw. They're able to match it to the original sample and get a warrant for his arrest. On September 21st, 2020, he's taken into custody. During the ensuing interrogation, McCurley finally cracks.
I've never seen her, never met her, never talked to her, I wouldn't know her if she was standing beside me.
I will believe the truth, but right now you're not giving me the truth.
I did not kill anybody.
Then what did you do? What did you do if you did not tell me? Give me something. Give me something that makes me believe you're not the monster.
Your DNA was on her body. It is evidence that does not lie. What we're saying, Mr. McCurley, is that your DNA was found on Carla Walker. Okay? So there's no question about it. Can you tell us what happened?
How did you kill her?
I guess choked her.
You've been holding on to that for a long time.
I can remember Detective Wagner saying, "We got him." I cried, and then I called Rodney. I said, "We got him." And there was a pause, and Rodney said, "Got him?" And I said, "Yep, we got him, buddy. We know who did this to you and Carla." And Rodney started crying.
Later during the interview, Detective Wagner asks McCurley where he left Carla's body. He starts giving directions, insisting it was beside a building. But this isn't where Carla was found. This raises red flags for the detectives. She may not be the killer's only victim. When they try to push him for answers, the 7-year-old suspect completely shuts down, leaving Wagner with nothing. For Jim, the feeling of defeat is familiar. He's lived with it for decades, but he's not a 1-2-year-old boy anymore. In the years since Carla was taken, anger has been keeping him moving. But now, sitting this close to the truth, he knows he isn't here for revenge, but for answers and for peace.
I know this might be hard to believe, but it's true. I feel compassion and forgiveness. I do. And by me having compassion and forgiveness in my heart, evil has no control over my spirit.
The McCurleys. A few days before the trial, Rodney McCurley, the killer's own son, tries desperately to get answers from his father.
If there were other crimes, I wanted him to give those families some peace and confess to those things. I thought if there was anybody that could open his eyes and soften his heart, it would be me, because I know he loves me. When I looked into my dad's eyes, I saw nothing. He was completely closed off. But if he loves me at all, he has any love for me at all, he would take that overwhelming weight off of me. That's what I want. I want that peace.
In other news, the killing of North Texas teen Carla Walker remained a mystery for decades, but her family finally saw justice thanks to DNA technology. And as reporter Sydney Persing explains, Carla's name is attached to a proposed bill that may lead to more cold cases being solved.
A murder trial 47 years in the making begins in a Tarrant County courtroom. Carla Walker.
On August 19th, 2021, Glen McCurley's murder trial begins. From his seat, Jim notices the heavy silence that follows Rodney's testimony, who has returned to Fort Worth to tell his story. He's also aware of the McCurley family nearby, and even though he can't see them, he knows the weight they're carrying. Jim has lived with Carla's murder for 46 years. For the McCurleys, this is all happening in real time. And despite everything he has been through, Jim knows he needs to do something. After one of the days in trial, he approaches their son Roddy. His heart was broken. His soul was broken.
His world had been completely devastated. And I said, Roddy, I said, I'm Jim Walker, how are you? He just couldn't even talk. I said, can I give you a hug, buddy? And we hugged. I said, hey, you're not responsible for the sins of your father. You do not own this. This is not your responsibility.
Yeah, meeting Jim was a pretty special moment in my life. He was comforting me. And I think that surprised me. When he could have done the exact opposite, but here he is, someone that was victimized by my father. He was comforting me.
I realized Roddy was a victim,
He saw someone in a dark, desperate place and said, I'm going to give that person love.